You'd be bored. My name's Anna Casillo. I live in Windsor Hills, and I'm going by some of the ideas that I have about running the meetings, and you guys are the expert at this, but I'm going by comparing to the other taxing entity, the Woodlands Township, that I've attended quite a few meetings. And I would love to have the agenda, which I see some of the different MUDs are still pretty generic, the first page, and I know each one is specific to each MUD, but I'd love to see that scanned and placed on the website so you can access it when you know that you have the meeting. I'd love to have a pledge to the flag before the meeting begins or right after you call the meeting to order. I'd love to have live streaming, not just the recorded that you can come back on YouTube and look at it later. And I'd love to have individual email addresses to the directors, not a general one that you put the director's name on the subject line and someone here takes care of forwarding it. So thank you for listening. And I know you guys have a lot of work. You're probably overworked and underpaid and understaffed, but maybe we need to get a few more staffing people to help update some of these things that a lot of people have grown accustomed to seeing in other entities and other taxing offices. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 3, consider an act on request for adjustment to relief. Yeah, no, none?
Oh, I do have one.
Okay.
That's a lie. Sorry. Thought it was for Metro. I did it the other night. Okay, I have an account. This for 82 West Cove Trail. They put their name and address change in 2024 at the appraisal district. We never got it. The appraisal district never keyed it until April of 26. So therefore the tax bill went to the prior owner's mortgage company and never got paid. When they finally made the change, the homeowner paid it. The new homeowner paid it with penalty and interest on 24 because it was 24 and 25. So they're asking for a refund of $129.83.
Which equals what?
The penalty and interest
2 years.
for 2 years. 24 and 25.
Council on that?
Was the error totally,
It's an empty, I have a letter from the appraisal district that it's their error. They never keyed it. We never, the taxing jurisdictions never got it.
homeowner didn't realize that after the first year?
Apparently. But
I
that's
can
all
understand
within
that confusion then. Not every end. Not
It's
everybody gets
$129, you said?
the-
Motion to approve.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent agenda, any items to be removed?
Move to accept as presented.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 8,
Before we move on to item 8, as kind of a precursor to that, we just wanted to thank Alan, Paul, and Jim for your service, your dedicated service, I should say, public service in serving MUD 67. Alan, for your 14 years here on MUD 67, and Paul, 18 years, I believe, on MUD 67. You guys have made a lasting difference to the residents of MUD 67, and once again, we thank you. And Jim, for your 2.5 years on the MUD board, we thank you, and not to mention the nearly 3 decades that you served as on the Woodlands Water as the general manager. So we want to thank you for your contributions throughout. And so to all of you, John and I thank you very much.
I likewise want to thank you. It's been a pleasure serving on the board with you. I have learned a lot in 2 years. It's a comment more on your education and knowledge than my lack of it, I hope. But we didn't always see head to head or eye to eye, I guess it is. But I can promise you that I've never once felt that your motives were any different than mine. And that was to serve the public to the best of our ability and give them the quality water service they deserve at the best price. So I admire you for that, and I thank you. So Steve and I have these small gifts for you. It's a Yeti thermos, and on one side, it's got the beautiful Woodlands Water logo that Eric kindly provided for us. And on the other side, it says MUD 67 thanks you. So we're going to pass those down. And I got you a sippy top as well. This is the man chug cup. But if your wife wants to steal this, or better half, here's a nice sippy cup for in the car so you don't spill it. So thank you, gentlemen. We truly
Thank you.
appreciate you.
I'll be sure to fill it with clean, fresh, 167 more.
Superior water. Perfect.
Eric?
In addition to that, on behalf of Woodlands Water and MUD 67, We'd like to thank each of you for all of your years of service. We have a little plaque to give each one of you for those years of service, and I'll just read one of them. Our sincere thank you and appreciation for exceptional leadership and dedicated service to Montgomery County Municipal Utility District number 67. And then for each one, it has the years of service. Alan, March of 2012 to today. Jim from January 24 till today, and then Paul, June of 2008 till today. So really appreciate your years of service, and I appreciate working with y'all over the last few years since I've been here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As long as we're thanking them, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the staff and all your dedication over the years. And I think of several things that come to mind quickly is several hurricanes, the ice storm, the COVID, when we actually had to shut down and with no particular direction from anybody, you voluntarily stepped up, took things home, kept everything running. Nobody lost any water, and we kept everything running. And I thank you for all of that dedication and hard work. So thank you all very much.
All right, we're ready to move on to
Item 8.
item number 8. So we have documents from our newly elected directors, Kelly Romps, Christine Townsend, and Michael Quinn, who I believe is on his way here shortly, to be able to accept their documents for being seated as directors for the 2026 to 2030 term of office. We have a motion to accept those documents.
So moved. Second.
All right,
All in favor?
motion carries. I'm gonna go and perform the oath for our new directors, and then they can take their seat and begin to participate in the remainder of the agenda, beginning in item 9, and I'll go ahead and go through the remainder, like I said, until we get to 15, and then we'll hand it over to our new presiding officer after that.
You guys. Best wishes. Yeah. Oh,
Jim.
the gift's over here, Jim.
Over here.
No.
Slide
Paul.
down, slide down in the middle. Give me that chair. Move that chair around. You and I can be in the middle. Oh, give me that way. Give me the way. Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Yes.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, appreciate it. Wanna go first? I'll let them step out. You would raise your right hand.
Right.
And at the end, you don't have to repeat the entire thing, but at the end, say I will or I do to affirm the oath. You, Kelly Romps, solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Director of Montgomery County MUD number 67 of the state of Texas, going to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help you God.
I do.
Congratulations. All right, Christine, are you ready?
Yes.
Kelly, raise your right hand, please, ma'am. Do you, Christine Townsend, solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Director of Montgomery County MUD number 67 of the state of Texas, and to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state? So
It's
help
real
you God.
now.
Congratulations.
Jim, take it back.
Please be seated. Just pick a spot, either
I see,
there next to Kelly
I
or.
see Mr. Quinn in the parking lot. Kelly, did you get the handouts for this meeting? The bond schedule or some outlooks there and? You got all the papers. Yes. Did you get all the handouts over there?
I don't think,
Yes,
Okay.
I have the 67 stuff at home already, and I got
No, this is some new stuff.
new stuff.
I'll get it.
She looks like she has about 10-year plan.
Oh, no, but the payment schedules or what are you calling them, Adam?
I think she picked those up.
Oh, she did? Okay.
This one was a chair.
Let's see.
Just gotta hit pause here until Michael gets here, so we can go ahead and swear him.
That's fine.
That might be set wrong.
I settled in this one. It is weird.
All right. Oh, congratulations. Congratulations.
My own nameplate.
Oh, yeah. We're gonna have to fix those.
This one, wherever.
Am I supposed to put it on?
That probably seems more visible of it. Here. Otherwise you might. Ah, oh, there we
The
go.
old and with
Oh,
the new.
baby. They're changing quickly.
It's like a changing of the government.
Yes.
Three experienced board members need to pick up our games. They're very good.
Extra nose, yes.
I should have grabbed this up.
Hey, can you get, Kelly, would you get me one too, please?
He's here.
Have you
Yeah, instead of going through the minutes. All right.
Mike Quinn,
Yes,
Brian Yates, starting for the district.
Brian, my pleasure. How are you? Sorry for being late.
It's all right. Here are documents for you to fill out and then hand those to Shelley to be able to complete for you. And we're going to go ahead, if you're ready,
I'm
go
ready.
ahead and administer the oath and then have you seated to go perform your duties as read.
Get
Raise
paid.
your right hand. At the end, confirm, say I do or I will. Do you, Michael Quinn, solemnly swear or affirm that you'll faithfully execute the duties of director of Montgomery County MUD number 67 of the state of Texas, and to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of this state, the United States, so help you God.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Like there's a spot up there next to Kelly. for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Sit down.
Check this, 6/7. 20th.
Sorry, guys.
That's fine. Okay, well, you have to do that after the meeting. We ready?
Ready to move on to item number 9, election not to disclose the personal confidential information of our directors, phone number, social security number, et cetera, for our newly elected directors. Do we have a motion to accept those documents from our new directors?
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, election of officers to the board. So I'll refer you to the cover page of your packet. You'll see who the current officers are. So we obviously have vacancies now at president, vice president, and secretary treasurer. We do also typically have 1 or 2 assistant secretary treasurers to be able to fulfill that role should the primary secretary treasurer be unavailable. The way we'll handle this is go one office at a time, receive nominations, and then from there, we can take a vote. If there are multiple nominations, we'll take a vote by hand vote or voice vote and go from there. Do we have a nomination for board president?
I nominate Steve Briggs.
Okay, any other nominations? Steve, you accept the nomination?
yes.
Okay, all those in favor, of Steve, as board president, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. All right. Vice president, do we have a nomination?
I nominate Mike Quinn.
Any other nominations for vice president? Mike, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is secretary treasurer. Do you have a nomination for secretary
And
treasurer?
nominate Kelly Rumps.
Okay. Any other nominations for secretary treasurer? Accept the nomination.
I do.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Assistant Secretary Treasurer. Like I said, we typically have at least 1 or 2 of those. Do we have nominations for 1 or 2 Secretary Treasurers?
I nominate Christine Townsend
What?
as Assistant Secretary Treasurer.
Any other nominations for Assistant Secretary Treasurer?
Do you accept that?
Accept it.
Do we want to have a second one, or John, you just want to stay director and not?
I'm not the boss. You're the boss. What do you want to do?
Cool.
That's fine.
I nominate
Okay,
myself as
yeah, yeah.
backup assistant secretary treasurer.
Any other nominations for Assistant Secretary Treasurer? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we have that taken care of. Now we'll move to appointment of trustee and alternate. So there's one primary trustee. There are two alternates. Right now, we have vacancies for trustee and first alternate, so we'll go through the same process as with the officer positions. Do we have a nominee for trustee?
Nominate John Thaler for trustee.
Okay, any other nominations for trustee? If not, nominations are closed. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Carries. First alternate, do we have a nomination for first alternate?
I nominate Steve Briggs.
Any other nominations for first alternate? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Carries. Second alternate, we have a nomination.
Yes. Kelly Rumps.
Any other nominations? Accept the nomination.
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. All right, item number 12 is to approve the district registration form. That's an administrative item that we file with the TCEQ. It includes the directors' names, terms of office, officer positions. So obviously, we've had some changes there. Our office will complete that administrative form and file it with the state. Do we have a motion to authorize us to complete and file?
Approve the motion.
Motion, with second.
A second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 13, the update of the local government officers list. So that list is comprised of each of the directors as well as the investment officers, which is your general manager and accounting manager. That obviously needs to be updated now that we have new directors. Do we have a motion to approve the updating of that list?
So moved.
Motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 14, training requirements for directors. This is for our new directors. In your packet of materials is the items that I handed to y'all. There's a memo regarding training for Public Information Act and Open Meeting Act. There's 2 1-hour training sessions that you need to complete. You go to the Texas Attorney General's website, and that's listed in the memo to be able to complete that training. They're both, I think, an hour apiece. You're supposed to complete those within 90 days of being seated. I generally tell directors, do it in the first 30 days or, it'll kind of fall off the radar. Once you've completed it, there's a certificate of completion. If you can email that to Shelley, she'll put the certificates, there's one for each training session in your file, and that will complete your obligation to fulfill that training. Good news is, once you've done it once, that's all you got to do. It's not a recurring or continuing education requirement, which is different than what we'll talk about with the next item.
Good.
No actions necessary on that item. Any questions on item 14? Item 15 is cybersecurity and artificial intelligence training. So there's a memo in your board packet about that, pages 21 and 22. John and Steve may recall, we talked a couple of years ago about cybersecurity training when that first came out. I think y'all were on the board when that first came out.
Yes, we were.
And so at the time, the legislature did not require that training to be completed unless a director had access to a district computer system and used that computer system to perform 25% or more of their duties. So we kind of got in the minutia of is accessing the Wi-Fi computer system, is accessing the Google Drive computer system. And basically what we said is, use your own best judgment, but if you think you're close, go ahead and complete the training. It's not a large time commitment. Well, now the legislature has changed the requirement for cybersecurity and now requires all elected officials to complete that training, regardless of whether you use a district computer system or not. So now you got to complete it regardless of whether you did before. And then in addition, they imposed an AI training requirement on directors, but they're using the metric that they used before for cybersecurity of access to a computer system for 25% or more of your duties. So recommendations the same there. If you think that may be applicable to you, go ahead and complete them both. Again, it's not a large time commitment. There's links in the web on the memo to 2 different free training options for both of those training requirements. Shelley's going to email y'all an electronic copy of this memo, so you're not having to type in all the question marks and equal signs and like a 3 line long, URL.
You've seen me.
And you can complete it. Now, difference between the Public Information Act and Open Meetings Act training, in this training, there's a couple of significant differences. One, it's not a one time and you're done. It's an annual requirement. So the first deadline is August 31st of this year, and then it's annual thereafter. So what we'll probably do is put an item on the agenda each year around this time to remind y'all to do it for the next year. But my suggestion to you is the same as the other training. Do it in the first 30 days so it doesn't fall off your radar screen.
Mhm.
Second difference from the other training that we discussed is that according to directors who've already completed this training, there's not a certificate of completion that's provided at the end. So I've told directors we're going on the honor system. Just email Shelley when you've completed the training. Let her know whether you took just cybersecurity or cybersecurity and AI, and that will satisfy your training requirement evidence for this fiscal year. And that covers it for cybersecurity and AI training. Happy to answer questions on that training if you have it. Last item before I hand it over to Steve is to consider the conflict disclosure reporting requirements. So for our new directors, in your packet of materials, there was a memo that talked about conflicts. Very, very rare that we have a director that has those. They're always very fact specific. So if for some reason now or in the future, you think you might have a conflict with a vendor or, whatever it might be, give me a call. We'll talk about it. We can determine, is there a conflict or potential conflict? And if so, there's different levels of action that you would need to take depending on how significant it is to be able to alleviate that potential conflict. I think that covers it on the new director items. I'll go ahead and turn it to you, Steve.
Okay, on to item 17 on the agenda. Receive the regular monthly SJR Woodlands Division report.
All right, one-year packet. Well, to start with, my name is Chris Meeks. I'm the Utility Enterprise Manager for the River Authority. That title means I manage the Woodlands and GRP division. So obviously y'all know Woodlands, GRP is the surface water division. There's quite a few people with me here today. I'll let them introduce themselves because you'll see them a little bit.
Good afternoon. My name is Ed Shackelford. I'm the Director of Operations, which means I supervise Chris, but also have 3 other divisions to go with that. Highland Division, our Flood Management Division, and also our Lake Conroe Division.
I'm Aaron Shindelwolf. I'm the engineering manager for the San Diego River Authority. So I'm one who oversees working with the divisions. We have 5 operating divisions for planning, project development, project implementation, and going on into construction or other phases that result from design. And I'm with the River Authority 15 years, but I'll be giving a presentation here shortly. Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Pam Steiger with San Jacinto River Authority, Chief Financial Officer. I, as with Aaron, have been with the authority over 15 years.
Thank you.
So in your packet between pages 23 and 38 are the standard Woodlands and GRP monthly operations reports. Since, as Aaron stated, he does have a presentation. Essentially, the highlights for Woodlands and GRP is there's no violations, no major unexpected expenditures that did occur. But if you have any questions on that information, I'll be happy to answer them now, or you can send them to Eric and then we'll get them answered that way. Any questions before I pass it on?
Anything new on the water loss story?
I sent nothing right now. I did send Eric about 5 years of accounted for and unaccounted for that we've checked our records versus the accounting records to verify we're good versus calibrations. And then so I've sent that to Eric for another review. So.
I have a question, just to be clear that I'm reading this properly on page 24. We have rolling year water loss, fiscal year water loss. We budget 4% water loss for the fiscal year, and we're running on the rolling about 6.5%, and on the fiscal about 7.5%. Which, am I correct in interpreting this that we're 50% or greater above our budgeted water loss?
Just under 50%. Yeah, correct. For FY26, which we're in now.
Right.
Correct. Now, as a heads up, a precursor for next month's budget discussion, we are looking to increase that water loss from 4% to 6.5% in the FY27 budget that starts September 1st.
My memory, what does 1% of water loss cost us? About
Roughly,
67.
160,000, 150, 160,000 per 1%
For this much.
for the entire
Previous-
Woodlands.
I think, John, you were asking about.
Yeah, I was asking about us, so we're about 10% of that, massive, more or less.
I haven't checked percentages pro rata quite a while, to be honest.
On page 30, on the disinfection byproduct study, the note said that at the end of April, you got the final report that was being reviewed by SGRA. Any early indication about the results of that, or is that coming?
I sent that to Eric this morning as well. It does have the numbers and stuff. It took a little bit longer. A PhD wrote it and we had to get it out of PhD. So it's still pretty much there, but Eric does have it now to disperse to y'all.
Good or bad news?
Not good or bad, just data, new data.
No. I was gonna tell us it was
Yeah, I
doable.
mean, obviously, in order to increase the
Yeah.
the surface water take, there would need to be work done, which we expect.
Okay.
We'll be sending that out. I got it just this morning.
And you're in the, according to the agenda, this goes through page 73. Are you going to hand off part of this?
I am. Aaron has a presentation. I'll go ahead and call him up, but the full presentation of about 40, 50 minutes is at the trustees meeting. Aaron's going to hit an abbreviated version of it. There is no action, just to steal some of his thunder. There is no action on the project plan today. The actual action is taken with the budget in July and August. So today's informational. It is also a lot of information, so we encourage y'all to take a look at it over the next few months. Any questions, get them back to Eric, talk about it in the MUD meetings, and we'll be here to answer them. So.
Can I borrow that actually? I have a PowerPoint, but because it was incorporated into the packet, they got a different page number at the bottom than what I have. So actually this starts on page 39. Before I move into that, each of y'all should have got a copy of the actual 10-year project plan. This is the detailed 10-year set of projects, roughly 70 in all, that comprise what we plan to achieve in the next 10 years. As Chris mentioned, looking at 2027, which our fiscal year starts September 1st, projects for those are the ones that we're really focused on, have pretty much put in concrete. And then we'll roll into the O&M budget, which will be approved later, reviewed next month, and then approved later. There's no approval on the project plan, like Chris mentioned. However, it's important to plan ahead so that you know what projects you need, how you're going to, when you need them, and how you're going to fund them. And going through this presentation, I'll explain that a little bit in more detail. So, and by the way, yeah, definitely take a look at all this. It's got very thoroughly detailed sheets for each project in that 10-year period, sorted by water and wastewater, with pictures, descriptions, justifications, a funding schedule or spend schedule, and then the calendar for each phase. But going back to the presentation, so why do we have a 10-year project plan? Again, to prioritize projects that we need to keep our infrastructure working properly, to keep continuing to provide the high level of service to the ones that is expected. Essentially, as I said, if you turn the faucet on, you want the water to run properly with good clear water. And if you flush a toilet or run the sink, you want it to go down and not come back up. So like I said, the 10-year project plan, first year is what is going to be set in stone for the budget. Next 10 years is subject to change. Do our best to each year to update this based upon best information, studies that we performed, recent analysis, and then operational changes that do occur or system failures that may occur out of the blue. Moving on to 41. So how are they developed? Well, like I said, sometimes things happen. Wells can fail, other components can fail, and that takes priority typically. However, for the most part, I say 95% of the projects in this project plan were developed based upon studies that we've done in the past few years. Studies done by consultants who looked at the different parts of our system, the different parts of the infrastructure, whether it be water wells, lines, wastewater plants, power plants, elevated storage tanks, etc. Compared it to our asset management plan and the data we get from the field, preventative and corrective maintenance, things of that nature, and age and condition, and put that all into a plan for how we're going to keep the system running out properly. And the next page, you see just a kind of a illustration of not all, but a lot of the recent studies that we have done for each of those types of infrastructure.
Are the studies listed on page 43, just the ones that you did internally, or are these also including consultant reports that you paid for?
Primarily consultant reports that we paid for. That's correct. If you're looking at the big list.
Yeah, I didn't see some of the most significant ones like the HDR and Corolla studies, or am I missing them?
Well, we have the Corolla study is still ongoing.
Okay.
We do have plant one at the bottom of the left-hand column, strategic plan. So that kind of led into the owner's advisor project, which is the Corolla study.
Okay.
And what was the other one you mentioned?
The HDR water line.
It's on the top left.
Top left. Which
First one, it says the AC water line.
That's HDRs. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And since we're on that page, try to fit as many as these I could on this one page.
Understood.
Have legible. But what you'll see is the first bullet will be typically projects or studies that we have already done that we utilize to plan projects that are in the project plan. And then, when a study gets to be about 10 years old, or if circumstances arise, that could change previous results, we will reevaluate the system, look at our current circumstances, and see if there's a need for a change in our strategy and our plan. Projects that we thought may have needed to be done sooner could be done later. Maybe the scope changes, and of course, costs can also change. So we'll be having follow-up studies, and those are also in the project plan for those types of infrastructure to let us refine projects as we get down into those later years of the 10-year period. And then the last bullets are, these section are those projects that came out of those initial studies identified by the 6-digit code for each one, and those corresponds to the project sheets that are in the project plan document.
I have a question
Yes, sir.
on the 10-year project plan. I thought I heard when it gets to be about 10 years old, you review it. Is there any sort of an ongoing review to make sure it's still current? And I may have missed that in your comments.
As far as the plan itself, the overall plan is updated every single year.
That's it. That's the answer to my question.
Yes.
Thank you.
So moving on to next slide, 44. How do we fund these projects? Well, for the kind of more routine projects of our infrastructure, water well rehabs, elevated storage tank rehabs, smaller projects that are wastewater and water plants, we can fund it on a what we consider pay-as-you-go basis. And the way that works is every year we budget a transfer schedule from our O&M budget to our R&R fund. And what R&R fund does, it allows you to allocate funds for a project specifically, and those funds are allowed to continue with the project throughout the duration of the project, rather than you have to be concerned with cutoffs because of fiscal years. Whereas the O&M budget is bound by a fiscal year. Also, you can get grants, which we did have grants obtained for one project dealing with flood mitigation for a lift station. In the past, we did get bonds, roughly $40 million worth, back in 2017 from Texas Water Development Board. And those were used for several projects, utilizing roughly half of them, the wastewater projects. And we have then in the project plan, projects identified to utilize the remainder of those funds from that bond. There is debt service that has to be paid on that bond every year as well from the O&M budget. That's kind of that bucket that goes up from the bottom.
Hmm.
And we have to keep our emergency reserve funded. There are also projects in here, some very large projects. Oh, sorry.
How much is the emergency reserve?
Let's see, it's two, what is it? You
By
know,
resolution, it's $2 million and it increases each year by an engineering CPI. Right now, it's about 2.7 million, give or take
Our
100,000.
resolution or the River Authority resolution?
Resolution approved by the MUDs and the River Authority Board.
Thank you.
And is that money someplace where it's earning interest or is it?
I'm
where's
sure it
parked?
is.
Okay.
Now, that's, you got the expert here today.
That's
Nice.
the reason we don't come back each year and ask for a contribution to the emergency reserve
Right.
because of the interest. So,
Okay, thank you.
yes, sir.
On the grants, do we have a steady grant stream?
Now, this was one project in particular where
project,
we
one grant.
applied for it. Yes, sir.
Peter, help me understand you said the operating fund is for something that's going to be done in a fiscal year, whereas the R&R fund might be used to carry over if the fiscal year didn't get spent or didn't get done. Is that correct?
That's correct. So, well, fiscal year, your money kind of goes away, so you got to reallocate the money. However, during the life of a project, particularly if you know, projects typically can't be done in 1 year. So that's why we basically budget for the entire project. And that allows us to transfer past, overlap those fiscal years without losing that money and then having to re-ask for it again.
So is there any upper limit on how big a project can be before it has to move out of the operating fund and go somewhere else?
But actually, we're going to talk about this a little bit later. So projects themselves, like construction, maintenance, we're going to move everything that was previously in O&M out of that so that the O&M budget only has things such as salaries, chemicals, insurance, things of that nature. Before, we were doing valve replacements, manhole coatings, things that were going on an ongoing basis in the O&M budget.
So we gonna call it another budget or what's it gonna be?
It's just going to move to the R&R fund so that everything budget that's project related is all together in the project plan.
That R&R fund's gonna get to be pretty big.
So those projects are in the current project plan that you have in front of you now. It's an increase of only about $250,000 per year.
Water well replacement, where's that going?
That's always been in the project plan. Water well rehab, water well, drilling a new water wells, those are in the project plans.
Pay for those on an annual basis? Are they going to move to, are we gonna pay?
They're in the R&R.
Look at those numbers.
Yeah.
On the bond proceeds, on your diagram on page 44, actually, there should be a separate line going back to the revenue from the Woodlands Water, correct? Because that's how we pay for the bonds. It's not hanging out there all by itself. It has to come out of our rate pay, our residents.
So everything on that list, except for grants, comes from,
It does, but
The
it's-
much.
you notice how the other ones are connected to the Woodlands revenue and that one's not? It's like it's a magical thing. It's not a magical thing.
understood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we have a bunch coming up, we've got to put in the, especially for the new directors, this is all confusing, I know.
It is.
And I'm still
Yeah.
trying to learn it. So, yeah, the revenue from the Woodlands Division funds all this. Okay, so but the bond proceeds will have to be funded by us.
Well, so the debt service requirement is funded by the MUDs. The bond proceeds, like per se, the revenue
Right.
comes from another source, right? So the payback is from the MUDs, but the money comes from TWDB, open market,
From bonds.
and that's what this is starting to show. So.
The other thing to note is that we do have quite a few projects in here, very large projects, typically water line replacement projects. And then some wastewater gravity main rehab projects that are unfunded in the project plan. The water line projects resulting from that condition-based assessment we recently finished. And then wastewater projects from a previous study that was done in 2017, we plan to update that for this project start to reevaluate the need for those and if they can be pushed out further. As far as the schedule is concerned, so here we are in May. We did the presentation, like Chris noted, to the trustees last week. Here we are this week, giving the presentation to each of the MUDs. Next month, trustees, Chris will give the O&M draft as well to the MUDs. In July, each of the MUDs will decide on how to, vote or how to, they want to approve the O&M budget, which includes the R&R and the project plan for 2027. Give that direction to their trustees, so then that in August, the trustee votes on the O&M budget for 2027. And then our fiscal year starts September 1. Moving on to the next slide.
Once we in August, the trustees approve it, then it goes to your board too, or no?
It does.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, in August as well.
Late August. So we've inserted the slide. Primarily this deals with the wastewater plant. And kind of just see where we've been and where we're at now and where we're going from here, at least for the time being for the next year. So FY 25 and 26, we have roughly $700+ million in the 10-year project plan overall, doing all those R&R funded projects and the bond funded projects and the unfunded projects. This year, we're planning on only $353 million in the project plan. Significant part of that, or I'd say majority of that, was because of a different direction we're taking now on wastewater plant 1. Rather than looking at the 4 or so options and further evaluation on what to do with the wastewater plant for the future, we're now going to go to a prepare, rehab in place strategy for that wastewater plant. And besides the study to evaluate right sizing of the plant from the SFDUEs we received from Woodlands Water's analysis, and historical data from flows and DCQ requirements, all the other funding that was previously in the project plan for that plant for improvements has been taken out for now. Next slide kind of illustrates.
Before we get off that slide, I want to explain to the new board members, if you're looking at this slide, Kiki, on page 46, this one. So in fiscal year 25, you see the total plan cost for 10 years was $700 million. And that included 48 miles of AC pipe that we dug into in the next year and a half or 2 years, and a full replacement of the wastewater treatment facility, which we're still working on trying to work through with the River Authority. And that carried forward to last year because we really didn't know exactly where that was headed. And so in the fiscal year 27, what he said is, now we've got some plans in there for the pipeline replacement.
That's correct.
But we do not have any funds in there for the wastewater treatment facility because we have some more work to do. So that's why it shows a sudden drop from 730 million to 350. Some of that is because we've rescaled the projects, but the other thing is because we don't know for sure what we're going to do, and it's to be determined by you and the rest of the new directors.
So my question on 27, if I understood correctly, you just peeled off wastewater treatment facility 1.
Correct.
And so that 353 is strictly for AC replacement?
No, sir. The 353 is the total project plan for the 10-year period that's in the packet. That includes all the R&Rs, everything.
Okay, so I have to go through the package to see what's in there.
Correct.
353. Okay, thank you.
So the difference is nothing. We're taking out everything for plant 1, and also the scope of the AC replacement projects for that 10-year period did get reduced. So that also changed it slightly.
So explain to me, why don't we have a placeholder for the wastewater treatment 1 in there? Because I look back at your slide 40, the 4th bullet point, they say factors can change the project plan, including updated studies, analysis, infrastructure failures, and changed operational needs. So it seems as though you could put a placeholder in there, and under the various category factors that you put in there, you could amend it later on next year. And at least we have a better idea where we're going in the longer term with a placeholder in there. So
We did consider that. At the bottom of it does say, the next page does say, if you're going to put a placeholder, could be 75 million to 150 million. We did consider putting a placeholder in there, but knowing that the next year is going to be used to determine what the outcome is of the plant, and we're going to revise the project plan anyways, we said, let's leave it out. Because if we put in 75 million and it came in at 150 million, it could be like, okay, why did you undershoot it? If we put in 150 million and it came in way lower than that, it'd be great, but that doesn't always happen.
Talking about a 10-year plan, right?
You are talking about a 10-year plan.
So as long as you're not putting it in for fiscal year next year, there's no real charge to us other than expectation. Is that correct?
Outside of FY 27, but that's what we've also done in the past. When you look at even before FY 25, 24, 23, because the AC water lines were originally put in FY 17, FY 18. And so we were putting in everything that was requested by the directors and the trustees up until 24 or 25. And so that number kept growing. And then, of course, the discussions over the last few years is, why is this in here if there hasn't been a condition assessment? You need to scale this down. So this year in FY 27, we took the different approach of, until we have direction, we're not going to put it into the project plan. But we did add the note that said there could be up to about $150 million liability sitting out there for Plant 1. Long story short, we don't know which way we're going to go with y'all on that, so we did not include anything.
And I understand what it makes sense, especially if we gave you grief before, you don't want to get grief again.
I'm trying.
But on a more serious note, I know we've had this conversation, the new board members probably aren't aware of it, with regards to wastewater treatment facility number 1. And I know you're going to talk about the Corolla study here in a second. But there was also the option of possibly doing some land acquisition. I know the money we had in there originally has been moved by our vote. Does that make sense, more sense to do it in 17, given that there seems to be multiple hypotheses that we'll need the land no matter what?
To go ahead and start looking at purchase land?
Put money in there and start purchasing.
You could. I wouldn't advise it in 27. I'd wait till the results come back, because one of the biggest things, you're going to need to buy at least one piece of land for a contractor laydown, right? You may have to buy 2, 3, 4 different parcels in case the TCEQ says you have to do peak flow. So if you're going to buy land, obviously I'd like you to buy all the land around it for future benefit in 30, 40, 50 years. But aside from that, you don't want to buy 4 parcels if you just need 2, right? So what I'm looking for is, why not go ahead and wait the next year, see what happens, see what's needed, then you can buy the parcels you want. However, if the trustees in the MUD say, no, we'd like you to go ahead and look to buy 3 or 4 parcels, and we'd like you to invest $4 or $5 million in there, we can put it in there, and we can either look at the rate increase, or we can look at a bond or some other way to fund it, move projects, whatever it may be.
We're talking $10 million. That doesn't need a bond, I don't think, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's just, I don't currently have the funds allocated, so I have to move something or find it. Yeah.
Well,
But did I hear correctly? We're going to buy land at some point.
It's advised to buy some land.
Something to think about.
Yeah, please, Ed.
If we
Ed got
end up-
involved. Ed was involved a lot in this in the past, so he knows quite a bit about
If
it.
we end up in a not friendly acquisition, basically eminent domain, we have to have a public purpose to justify the purchase of that
Fair
land.
enough.
And having a report saying you need
Got it.
land to place these process units justifies that.
That's a very good point. Good point.
And so
So are we looking at doing this eminent domain regardless of when?
the preference is not to. We did talk to a couple of landowners last year on a friendly, on an attempt at a friendly.
Sure.
Their numbers were quite a bit different than our independent appraisals. And so we dropped the pursuit.
Good point. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
So going on to slide 47, we're talking about the owner's advisor study by Corolla, which was approved last week. This we're going to our board this month for approval. But you can look at just the list of items that could be implemented from the study over a 10-year period for the wastewater plant as it exists today and repair and place strategy. So as Chris mentioned, estimates are very rough right now because we don't have this study done. It'll take 12 months to do the study. But we're estimating a range of $75 to $150 million.
You're talking about the Corolla study?
What's that?
We're talking about the Corolla study?
Well, what we will be getting out of the Corolla study.
It'll take a year?
Yes.
Haven't they been in there quite a bit already?
Estimate's 6 to 9 months with a 3-month buffer, so 12 months. I wouldn't imagine it would take 12 months to get done.
Your contract? You haven't signed the contract yet, have you? You have?
Actually, it goes to the board next Thursday.
That's it. That's a long time, guys. I mean,
I
they've been
agree.
in there, they sampled the thing. If they can't get that done in 6 months, I don't want them. So your recommendation, the board is to sign a contract for 9 months with a 3-month extension if needed.
Leave it to the engineering manager.
The recommendation to the board is we don't do buffers on the contract, so we give the full amount,
6 months.
about 12 months.
Well, I got you. All right, I'm sitting here I represented my residents, and we've done a really good job of trying to high grade what we're doing. We got it down. They went in there, they sampled the thing. They said the infrastructure is not as bad as we thought. So if we do some work, we got 20 to 25 more years life remaining on the key elements. They've been there, and now we got to right size the plant, which we've had conversations about for the last 9 months at least. We all know generally where we are, and it's a question of when you make the changes, what's it going to be? How can that take a year?
Evaluate the data from SFDVs. Size plan.
So I'm gonna tell you what, you're working at a government pace, and that's not acceptable. That we won't, you give me a year to do a study, then it'll be another 1.5 to 2 years before we get anything started. That doesn't work.
Let's work with the consultants. See if we can-
Please, Ed, you're hearing me. That's all.
I mean, particularly if we don't re-rate it something lower, it means some more engineering. But if we're going to keep it at its current rated capacity, you would think that that would be
I think to
something
be
that
able
moves
to-
this.
Sorry, for them to be able to get an accurate cost estimate for this level of concept, they've got to do some resizing to begin with. So they're factoring that in. It's going to take some time to get the cost estimates, but let us visit with them and see if we can't get something a little bit quicker.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. That would be great.
And so the next section is what projects we have either started FY 26 and will continue, which is what we're in now, and continue in the FY 27, or projects that will start at FY 27. Particular note though, just the first two, Town Center water line replacement and the Woodlands Parkway water line replacement. So those were the two projects identified from the study as tier 1 projects, highest priority. We'd already started design on Town Center before this study was done. So we were able to fund that from R&R funds. However, beyond that, for land acquisition, for easement rather, and for the construction, we do not have currently any funding for that. Also, for the Woodlands Parkway waterline project, we do not have currently funding for design, construction, or easement acquisition. So that is what is identified in that supplement agreement. I know there's going to be some funding discussions here after this presentation. More to come on that. Beyond that, I know there's quite a bit more to talk about here in y'all's meeting. Like I said, all these projects are identified in the next, 9 pages in that project plan in great detail, how they're funded. Pretty much all the rest of them are funded from R&R or from those remaining 2017 bonds, with the exception of, let's see, the test slide 64, which page 64, lift station 21 improvements, which is that one we're funding mostly from the federal grants we got for the flood mitigation. So allow us to increase the elevation of the controls and the generator, and then also consolidate, there's 2 wet wells on site currently, consolidate them into one.
When I look at this project map, just help me, I don't see a red is the replacement?
Yeah, yes, the red, the hatched one.
See a hatched one.
What page you on, Mike?
I'm on page 6, the Town Center water line replacement.
Oh, you're in the 10-year plan?
Oh, yes, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were looking at the map.
Well,
The big map.
there's a map
Yeah.
in the 10-year plan.
For that project, yes, that is the map of the lines that will be replaced in that project.
So what's red and what's blue?
Red is those are water lines. The blue lines are water lines as well, but the red ones are the ones that will be replaced.
Okay, so red is replacement.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
We get off the water well stuff.
Mhm.
Are you done with it?
Go ahead.
We got a lot of water well projects coming up. And I don't know that I have a good understanding of an overview. If you guys have a little presentation, or would you willing to put one on that says, hey, here's all the water well stuff we're gonna be doing. We got pumps to replace, we got the new well, whatever it is. And maybe do a little presentation for us, or have us come out and visit with you to learn a little bit more about it. So I'm very interested in our water sources, and I see we have a lot of work coming up, and it's important to me.
We do.
And just related, it might be the same answer, is that I was noticing, the comment on those water wells on pages 52, 54 about lower production. I presume we're having to lower all the wells because the aquifer is receding and we're having to go
Yes,
deeper.
protect the aquifer decline,
Is that the-
particularly with the Jasper, the lower of the two aquifers.
But that's a predominant issue that we're having to face with all these water wells. That's kind of a build off of John's.
I think it'd be a good hour meeting to, hey, here's what's going on, so we're up to speed, and we can ask questions and make their lives miserable and move on from there. No, seriously, I think it'll help the board, or help some of us directors understand, because it's a very important project, and you guys seem to have it well organized, so I'd like to learn from you.
Sure.
And I kind of talking about the wells, it kind of goes into subject to change, everything's subject to change. We did have a plan prioritized for water well rehabs from a report done by Intera. Using that modeling of the aquifer, using the condition of the wells, how important those wells were from production standpoint and water quality. And we had it all planned out, and then next thing we know, we have 5 wells out of service because of mechanical issues. And those were not the ones that we were going to do first. So they all had to come to the front. So that's just the way it goes.
I look forward to getting together with you.
Right. I sure will. So moving on, just a lot of projects for wells, like you mentioned, several force main renewal projects. Plant 2 and 3, wastewater plant 2 and 3 projects. And then at the end, there's one large gravity main rehab project that will be going in construction soon. It's funded through those 2017 bonds out the east and west side of Lake Woodlands, along Woodlands Parkway. But one other thing I wanted to note, if you go to slide, it's hard to read some of this, but they overlap the pictures, 68. This is what I was talking about earlier, with moving those projects out of the O&M budget to the R&R budget, the ones that are smaller maintenance projects that are ongoing, rehabbing manholes, replacing valves, painting facilities. So just put all the projects in one place and not have them spread out in 2 different locations.
Question on, I think it's page 66, the belt press and conveyor replacement. That's wastewater treatment plant number 2. So that's a MUD 67 only project, or?
No.
None of these are much.
We all pay for everybody.
Okay.
We all pay together.
Yes.
Because $8 million.
Moving on to slide 69. This is a recap of FY27. So look at those projects that you just had those slides for. And what will be going into the O&M budget for FY27. R&R funded projects for water, $9.4 million. Wastewater, $3.3 million. $10 million out of a remaining approximately $23 million we have on hand for those 2017 bonds. Like I said, this is 27. The remaining we spent in the next fiscal year after that. Federal funding, we had that $1.825 million we got for that one lift station. Out of that, $958,000 we spent in FY27, the remainder the following year. And then unfunded projects, that is town center, construction land acquisition, and then all of Woodlands Parkway water line replacement.
So where's that money gonna come from?
You.
That's, the next discussion with the supplement agreement and the funding.
Well, before you get off 69, let's talk a little about the R&R funded. So you have 9 million of that. And then you have wastewater treatment. So you got 12.6 million funded. And those are the projects that are you've identified, and we have the money to do it on there, right? And how much is in the R&R fund?
That's what May the 1st or
Oh, there is
roughly
a
$30
matter.
million.
Okay. So at the end of fiscal year 27, if we're not going to use the R&R funds to pay the non-funded projects, will that money roll back to the MUDs?
No. So the money in the R&R, every project in the R&R is pre-funded. So we have the funding before we start the project. So the earlier question on how big of a project can the R&R handle, it's only related to how much we can actually accrue into the R&R, right? So in that roughly 30 million that you see, you do have elevated storage tank number 6, 12 to 14 million dollars. You have lift station number 5, which is 9.5 million dollars. So that's give or take what, $22 million of that. Then you throw on top of that the additional water projects and wastewater projects he has up there. Some of that EST money is in there as well, but essentially every dollar is already accounted for. But there are 2 major projects that account for about 22 million of that 29.
So anything in the R&R is already allocated.
Yes.
Thank you.
Move on to the next slide. So we'll look at the overall 10-year period, still subject to change. Page 70. So out of those projects and the whole project plan package, R&R funded $101 million. 2017 bonds, like I mentioned, already had $23 million left over. As of right now, we're planning on utilizing all that remaining money. Federal funding, mentioned we have that money, that exact amount, and use it by the FY28 really. And unfunded projects, so AC water line projects, that includes Town Center and Pleasant Parkway, but several others, as well as some gravity main rehab projects, large scale ones that were identified in a previous study. However, before we go into those in the later 5 years in the 10-year period, we will do another analysis to make sure we really need to do those, or if we need to do them, when do we need to do them? So that could change. But total project plan, project like mentioned, or amount like mentioned earlier, $353 million. And as also mentioned, that does not include anything for wastewater plant 1. However, and just to note, all those unfunded projects I mentioned earlier, or before just now, they're listed on the next 2 slides. So sorted for water and wastewater projects. And how we fund those in the future, we'll determine that at a later time.
One thing I'd like to see at some point is when you go back to your slide 46, where you're doing the bridge between fiscal year 26 on the projects to fiscal year 27. I'd like to see a detailed bridge of going from the 729 to the 353. And I know there's more in the 353 than just the water line. But there's also a change that occurred in that too, in terms of the water lines, in terms of the AC, the scope of the AC replacement changed quite a bit. And we rescoped it to include all the PVC pipe, and those need to be broken out. So ultimately, what we're having to communicate with the public about what's going on and the increase, how we're going to pay for these things. We need to be able to give a very comprehensive answer of how we got from point A to point B, where we are now and where we're going.
Yeah, it'd be good to know.
So I think that would be helpful in the long run, just for future.
I second the motion. Oh. Good idea.
Well, that's the entire presentation.
Thank you very much.
If you have any more questions, you can always send to Eric, who'll send to us, but now that there's a discussion on funding.
It's a lot of work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
18.
because we're going to move on to item 18, receive and discuss the draft SCRA
That'll be next month.
next time.
Please have a minute's note that we scratched 18.
Yeah, so item 18 is moved to next month. Okay, and on to 19. consider and act on supplemental agreement with SJRA for issuance of bonds in connection with Tier 1 waterline renewal projects, including discussion on timing of Tier 1 waterline renewal projects and review of district payment options.
So you have this handout here, looks like this, got a smaller page up front and a couple larger pages attached to it. The smaller page up front, all that is pulling data from the back 4 pages up front, so you can see it all in one. That's all. It's just a summary, that's right. And one of the questions that was asked as we were looking through the last couple months on the supplemental was, what is the impact? What would the impact be to the customers? And so that's what these 4 sheets do. And this book, like I said, summarizes what Adam's group did. So the top above the line is related to water rates. So on a 20-year bond, and it was done on 2 different variations, a 20-year and a 25-year bond. What would for the average water user in the Woodlands, what would the monthly bill adjust be affected by? And so for the first bond, which as we talked about the last few months was, I believe, 32 million for the first bond. That would result for the average customer about $4.53 on the monthly bill increase. And then after the second bond, which was around 30 million or so, that would have an additional $4.27 impact. If you did it on a 25-year, that goes down a little bit per month, but obviously you're extending the debt and the overall cost is going to go up because you extended that debt. So, and then the bottom, just for reference to see what that would look like if it were on the tax side of things. I think we've talked about in the past, going on the tax side of things is going to require a rollback tax election approved by the voters. What you probably likely do on that is once you have more information on the wastewater treatment plant in whatever 6, 9, 12 months, you'll also likely at that point be able to refresh the cost estimates on Tier 2 water lines. And you may even at that point have not gone into bond 2 above. And you probably, what you want to do is lump all those together and identify, what path forward that the MUDs want to go at that point. Probably not worth going to the voters for $4.50, overall, but look at that option going forward when you have all the numbers in front of you.
Okay, so you did averages here. I'm sorry. Yes, you did averages. Any chance we could see it on a percentage basis? Like, is $4 like less than 1%? Is $4 10%?
Average water bill is $104.
For all the months.
Average across the.
Okay, thank you.
Eric, I'm sorry, I
Did I
didn't.
miss that?
No, you didn't know. I'm sorry, I didn't keep up. The first bond is in 26 and he said it was 30 million.
32.
If you flip past that first page, John, at the bottom right. Yeah, on the big packet, on the bottom right, you can see, I've got, it says 32.315 million, and then 30,540,000 for the second issuance.
Okay, and the second one was 30.5.
I'm sorry, AADS is average annual debt service, so.
Okay, that's a 2 million. So so that's different than the 70 million the supplemental agreement originally called for. Is that correct?
I think they had a not to exceed 75, if I'm not mistaken.
But this thing envisions doing 2 different bonds in 2 different years. Okay, and just out of curiosity, I mean, a question's been raised in the past that, well, it's more efficient to do 70 million at one time than 2 smaller bonds. What do you think the incremental cost of doing 2 versus 1 is for this kind of scale? Just ballpark me.
I don't think it would be significant. I think, the requirement is to spend down ideally within 3 years.
Federal tax requirements that you have to have reasonable expectations of spending down the bond proceeds. So you can't, if you get an environment, which right now is hard to imagine that you get a really low rate environment. Right now rates are kind of, but they were really attractive for being the issuer. Then you might be tempted to say, oh, well, let's issue a big amount now because we can lock in that lower rate and be able to spend that out over time. federal government doesn't let you do that because you're using their federal tax exemption to allow you to get a lower rate. So they require you to spend that down in an accelerated pace.
Makes sense.
And so, yeah, the separation in talking with staff was, the intent was for the first tranche of projects that they, I don't know if they're designed yet or not, but they would be able to go to construction on the first tranche of projects as well as do the engineering for the second tranche so that the engineering would be done so that when you do sell, once you get the cash immediately, you can go to construction. So
So we were, in your vision, it would be, let's approve the more or less $70 million for the supplemental, but we would only draw those in bonds as needed by the schedule.
Needed at a certain amount.
and ideally, once they've designed the engineering for the second tranche, you can lock in. So it may not be the 30.5, it may be less, it may be more, but it would be a more defined number. So you're not just selling bonds.
Right. Okay.
If I look at the 2028 proposed rate, that's about a 32% increase over the current one.
Yes, correct. 5 times 12, exactly right. So I guess I'm a little surprised, Eric, and maybe I'm not reading this properly, the small page. I guess I kind of expected, and I'm not understanding this. So is the water rates, let's take the 26, but the first bond at 20 and 26 at 32 million. The monthly rate would be across the Woodlands would be $4.5 a month. But if I go down to the bonds, I guess I expected to see it much lower, and I don't. So it varies among the months that you'd expect.
So, and
Man,
looking at how we took an analysis for each. So if you're looking at the wholesale water rates, what we did was if you flip past the small page again, we used an average of the annual usage over the last 3 years. When it came to tax rate, the question was, do you use value or do you use SFDUEs? I think that most of the boards have less confidence in the SFDUEs. So we took, and if you flip past the first 2 pages, it's kind of small, but I'm taking an actual average, a pro rata share of the total value
okay,
amongst the districts so that you're getting a good representation.
got it. Okay,
And what we expect is it's as the debt grows. So
yeah,
if you're looking at, instead of $62 million, you're looking at
20,
100 or 200,
Right.
then the gap between above the line and below the line, it starts to grow.
got it.
See
That
what
makes
I'm saying?
sense. Yeah.
Because what happens when we looked at this prior was when you go tax rate, you start pushing more of the burden on the commercial side and less on the residents. And you see a little bit of that on these smaller bonds, but when the bonds start to grow into those bigger numbers, that gap starts to grow much bigger.
Yeah, so we'll need a little deeper dive.
When we go to, that's why I was suggesting, once you have all the numbers
Yeah,
after the treatment
absolutely.
plant stuff's done, you add in tier 2 water lines.
Yeah,
By then, maybe you haven't even done this second bond here, throw that in as well. Now you're looking at the bigger picture and deciding, okay, do we want to continue down the path of putting these in the water rates? Or would it make sense to go back to the voters and go to the tax side?
you don't want to do that every 2
Right,
years.
but for this, and you don't want to do that very often. If you're
Right.
gonna do it, you want to do it probably once and be done with it. And it's not, I mean, I'm not a financial advisor, but just, when you're looking at the difference of, $4.50 on $32 million, when you have a couple hundred million or whatever that number is for future, it's not really worth doing that at this time.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Makes good
I
sense.
agree.
Good stuff, man. I'll have to dig into it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
for
If you
getting
have
it.
any questions, feel
I
free.
probably will. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, on to agenda item number 20, receive update.
Wait a minute.
Oh, sorry.
Supplemental agreement.
Yep.
So it was in the list.
So I'm working with Eric on that and we are have a draft for either next month is the hope or July.
Our board or the trustee board?
Well, we'll probably take it to both. I mean, I'd like to, I mean, it's symbolic because ultimately it's a bud approval, but it would be nice to be able to have support from the trustees that, goes to the MUDs to say, hey, we the trustees, we've reviewed this. We recommend that our MUDs approve it.
Right.
It's not binding, but it's persuasive.
No, I think you wanted to, and last I heard, you wanted a uniform agreement across the MUDs if possible, right? It's taking a while. Tell me what is the process we're in? Where are we now in the process? And what's going to be done between now and the board meetings next month?
So now we've gone through the round of meetings where we've received feedback from directors, when we're-
Okay, well, yes, that's what you heard us, right?
And so now we are going and putting pen to paper to, come up with some proposed revisions to the draft that was provided by the River Authority to try to straddle that line between the different perspectives among directors. And then Eric and I will visit about it. And then we'll probably, find a way to roll that out with trustees first, and whether we go to a committee initially before we go to all the, that's still in flux, but we do want to be able to generate support that's across the board, because otherwise it's just, that's not the.
Thanks for the update.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're looking forward to get this squared away by August?
I mean, what I said in an earlier meeting is the River Authority wanted it approved by July, but to me, I don't want a calendar goal to get in the way of unanimity. So we've got new directors. I want to make sure we don't make people feel rushed, that we can go through it and, have questions answered, et cetera. If it takes an extra month or so, so be it. Because at the end of the day, we want unanimity regardless of whether it takes an extra month or so.
I mean, it sounds like it would be a good objective, as you said, to try to get the product from your discussions in June. So at least it gets out there and people can start to talk about it, so that in July you can, move the ball forward a little bit further. So you don't want to wait till July for that to have initial viewing of the agreement.
So we're looking at a draft next.
That's, again, that's the goal, but again, I don't want to, I don't want
understand. It's the
to
objective.
commit that it's going to be a particular date if we're
No,
going to have
I'm
challenges.
just trying to get scale.
Yeah, I guess my two comments are, one is that you have it in June. Having worked many agreements in my career, July isn't going to happen. It's a very important document, given we're going to be borrowing for supporting bonds of $400-500 million. It should be a very thorough document. Number two, as a trustee, I would expect to see the first draft trustee meeting.
Yeah.
That's just my word for what it's worth. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on number 19? Agenda number 20, received update regarding status of the Bear Branch, Panther Branch and Research Forest Drive drainage improvement projects.
Last month, we had talked about him assisting and putting a meeting together. He's still working on that. I talked to him this week about progress on that, and we're still trying to put that together. Just for the new directors, there's a project to do some drainage improvements, which would facilitate lowering the historical water level on major floods along Research Forest and that surrounding area. And it's been evaluated for about 5 years or so, well, probably since Harvey, I guess. And long story short is the original estimate from 3 or 4 years ago was updated a year or two ago and identified that with the funding that we have, we're about $10 to $11 million short. And so this endeavor is to try to identify bridging, closing that gap. So we entertained and talked with the Army Corps of Engineers last year to get into a funding program that would facilitate covering all of that. And they responded by saying, well, we don't have the budget to do, initially the feasibility has to be done by them. And we're going to have to wait for them to put that in the feasibility money to put that in their budget for their next fiscal year. In the meantime, we were going to go back at some local entities to identify if there's some additional funding we can get through that. I don't believe that the local entities would be able to bridge the entire gap, but could help. I think we'll need to go through that CAP funding program through the Corps, but that was kind of to help bridge some of the gap. So that's where we're at.
Based on what you know right now, is Schnabel going to need this additional hydraulic modeling?
No.
No?
No, that's not related. That's
That's a
On the dam, yeah.
Can we get a map of this?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any comments on it? Okay. Item 21, received attorney's report.
Nothing additional that we haven't already covered.
Been busy
Okay.
today, man.
Item 22, receive and or act on general manager's report.
Okay, general manager's report is on page 78. For the new directors, we provide a report each month. We've continued to put in as much as a lot of information. It does span all of the MUDs across the Woodlands. It starts on page 78. On page 78 is a summary of all of the open projects that we have. That's reviewing new development, redevelopment. We review drawings. We go out and do inspections of that work. We have about 178 open projects right now that we're reviewing. Last month, we had 44 inspections across some of those projects. We also did over 1,200 work orders across the Woodlands last month as well. Next page on 80, you'll get into some ditch work. The MUDs approved in their budgets for this fiscal year, quite a bit of ditch work to identify some failing pipe and some different things. This green spreadsheet is something that we've created just to assist y'all in kind of seeing all the progress that we've done since this fiscal year started. So the green is what's been completed. White and tan is what's to be done and or needs collaboration or coordination from some of the entities involved. So been doing a lot of work.
What is a OF structure?
Outfall.
Out. What is a BS structure? I know that one. Oh. That wasn't what I thought.
was.
Outfall. So it's the difference between basically the pipe coming from the streets in the neighborhoods versus a pipe that starts at the top of the bank of the ditch and then goes into the ditch. So there's another piping system within the ditch system that doesn't tie to the streets. So that's outfall versus backslide. Okay. So we'll continue to update this, and then the crews that we have are also doing diesel and overgrowth trimming as well, in addition to what's on the sheet. So a lot of work there.
Just about everything's a priority through.
Yes, we prioritized it in basically a simple 1, 2, 3 fashion, 3 being the worst. And we recommended in the board's approved just doing the 3s. So that's all you're doing.
Oh, okay, that's why we're
There's
seeing.
a lot of 2s and 1s that you don't see
That
there.
not seeing. Okay.
And we classified
Big enough.
1s as being points of interest, probably 5 to 10 years down the road.
Sure.
It will definitely get to a 3, 2s will maybe in the next 5 years.
Okay.
That's kind of how we do it.
Okay.
It was a really good study that we couldn't have done without Eric and Kim working hard and creating that GIS database and going after it. So it was very, very, very important work and well done.
Very thorough.
Thank you. A lot of other information in the report. We do have a new BD conference for new directors or anyone that's interested. Association of Water Board Directors is an organization that assists and helps with education information for directors across the state. And so they have several events throughout the year. Their biggest event is the summer conference. That's June 18th through the 20th. And so if you, that'll be in the Gaylord and Grapevine. And so if you have interest in attending that or getting registered for that, I know you just started today, but everything goes quick at this point. But if you have any interest in attending that, reach out to Shelley and she can assist in getting you registered for that.
Has Shelley automatically enrolled him in that? Oh, you guys should get enrolled in
Director
that.
must do that.
You need to do that. It's worth it.
Yeah.
It supports all of us.
Yeah, housing may be a little tight. Usually that fills up pretty quick, at least from the epicenter of, the hotel. And then they have other hotels that feed it. And then the actual event will be within them.
But join the group.
It's a work-
Become a member.
For sure.
Sorry.
We are planning to have a new director orientation on June 12th. So that's where we will have y'all come in, those that can, and we will go over everything MUDs and Woodlands Water Agency and kind of talk about what responsibilities we have and kind of get you up to speed on at least the makeup of the MUDs and Woodlands Water. And then the SGA will likely have something similar on their responsibilities and the assets that they manage as well. So June 12th, more to come on that. It will be here. We'll usually have it upstairs and while the presentation, you'll get to meet some of the staff here, and then Brian will chat with you as well on some legal stuff. I'll go over that.
Are you planning on having an all mud meeting for these new directors and existing directors on the pipeline? Status?
That was my next.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going through, I thought you were done with the topic. Well, you and I thought, we talk.
All mud meeting, we're looking at scheduling an all mud meeting. That's where we try to invite all the muds at the same time. That involves different venues because we're not big enough here to house that. So next month, we'll put on your agendas to that by law have to, the venue that you go to has to by law be approved through resolution. So that'll be on your agendas next month. And hopefully we can get something scheduled for June to have an all mud, specifically to get everybody updated on the latest and greatest with the water line projects. That'll be the main focus for that.
We're also gonna publish it in the newspaper.
Yeah, it's a public meeting.
Well, no, we have to publish in the newspaper, the new meeting location.
Oh,
That's-
so there's two of them. Oh, gotcha.
Yes, you have to adopt the resolution, and you gotta publish it in the newspaper, so it may push out a little bit when we can finally use that location. But we'll work on figuring that out.
Last couple of years, we were across the street with that and.
General circulation.
It's gone.
Yeah, that's right.
We have to change that.
Not there. Or it'd be pretty hot if we did it.
That's right. I do have I'll go real quick. I have a couple thank yous we've received from customers to the point even they took the time to write an actual thank you note and mail it, which was, we always appreciate and like to include that. We see interaction that the customers have had with our staff. And then with that, really quick.
Before you do that, with regards to the staff, you know, I was out campaigning for some of these candidates that got elected. And they were many of the voters might have not been real happy with some of the directors, including maybe me. But I can tell you in each and every case, they were extremely complimentary of their interaction with Woodlands Water. They said the staff always went above and beyond. They were receptive. They were incredibly helpful. So thank you for making us directors look good.
That is our goal.
Afternoon. I'll be brief. I'm John Geiger. I'm the Public Outreach Coordinator. And you have a communications report on page 90 through 94. You can see our major points of emphasis since we met last month. They're at the top of 90. Quick note about that school-based water education program. We just finished a pilot program for fifth graders at Colson Tough in conjunction with the SJRA and the township. We will assess that pilot thoroughly with the goal of making some maybe necessary adjustments and bring it to all fifth graders in our jurisdiction next school year. More to come on that.
Love to attend that.
On page 91, Eric is there with the award in his hand. We did get the Watermark Award for Communication Excellence from TAWWA.
Congratulations.
With Big Up Water Smart administration. You've got examples of communication materials on the next few pages. I think the new director of education will dive into a few of these in a little more depth. But if you have any questions on any of that, just let me know.
I have one comment for you. Yes, thank you. You sent me the comments that were received in the survey. I would request, the other directors said they hadn't seen them. And I would encourage you to send the survey to the new directors, because that was really good summary.
Yes.
And also the comments to all the directors, so the directors can get comfortable with what people are saying about what we need to do better.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. The next agenda item was receive the Woodlands trustees report, since our trustee is no longer here. I think based on my reading of it, I would think that we covered.
It looked good to
From the
me.
notes from
Good
watching
to
it
me.
online and reading here. I think we've covered all the topics.
Okay.
Unless somebody has any other comment, I would move that we would
Future agenda?
move on to the next item. Okay. Okay, and our lawyer stepped out, so I don't believe we were going to recess to a closed session today, so we'll move on from that. And we're not going to reconvene in open session, and so any other matters to be brought up for
Yes.
next agenda?
I have two things. One, I would like to see in our next agenda and future agendas, the trustee meeting report moved to immediately after the consent agenda. And the reason is that meeting happens a week before ours. And there's much significant details discussed, and I think we should have that as a prelude before we start our conversations. That's one recommendation I have with the agenda. Number two, is we had a guest speaker today, a visitor from one of our residents, and she mentioned the numbers housekeeping items, and I think we should discuss them. Now, she may not know we've discussed some of those in the past, but I think with the new board members, we should rediscuss that.
So noted. Great. Any other comments before we close?
Go ahead, pound it.
Meeting adjourned.